The sky didn't crack when it happened. There were no lightning bolts, no trumpets. Just a quiet click of a latch and a girl walking away with a pocket full of eternity. Most thieves run from the law. She's running from the architecture of reality itself. The village was a place of emerald rice fields and jagged mountain shadows. But for young Elaine, it was a kingdom of silence. She lives in a small, weathered, but with her grandmother, a woman whose hands were as rough as the bark of the trees they harvested. Elaine spent her days watching the dust motes dance in the sunlight, waiting for a ghost that never arrived.
When is she coming, Lola?
Elaine would ask, her voice small. Soon, the child, her grandmother, would grunt, never looking up from her weaving. But soon, there was a hollow promise, the first fracture. The memory that defined Elaine's childhood wasn't a birthday or a song. It was the day her mother finally appeared. She didn't come with open arms or the scent of flowers. She came with a suitcase and eyes that looked through Elaine as if she were a piece of unwanted furniture. Elaine had spent weeks preparing a drawing, a crude, colorful sketch of two figures holding hands. When she pressed it into her mother's hand, the woman didn't smile. She didn't ever take it. She simply sat down on the damp table, where the ink began to bleed and blur. That was the afternoon Elaine learned that cruelest lesson a child can acquire. You can be born to someone and still be a stranger. The end of innocence. 8th grade. By the time she reached 13, the hunger in her stomach was louder than the lessons in her textbooks. Poverty wasn't just a word. It was the way her grandmother's breathing sounded heavy at night because there was no medicine. It was the way her school shoes had holes that let the mud in. The day she dropped out of 8th grade wasn't a choice. It was a surrender. While other girls were daydreaming about boys and high school dancers, Elaine was standing at the edge of the village, looking toward the smog-choked horizon of the city.
I have to feed myself, Lola.
Her voice no longer a child's, because no one else will. She climbed onto the back of a rusted jeepney, with nothing but a small plastic bag of clothes and the hardened heart of someone who knew that love was a luxury she couldn't afford. She headed toward her father's house in the city, a place she hoped would be a home, but would instead. The city didn't greet Elaine with lights. I greeted her with the smell of burning rubber and the roar of engines that never slept. She arrived at the father's doorstep, a man she knew only from stories, carrying the last shards of her childhood. She expected a protector. Instead, she found a ghost drowned in gin. Her father's house was a revolving door of Vice's men, with yellowed teeth, gambling over card tables, and the constant clink of glass. In this house, Elaine wasn't a daughter. She was a servant. She cooked, she cleaned, and she learned to shrink into the shadows to avoid her father's drunken moods.
I just wanted to study.
She would later tell the interviewers, her voice cracking. But in the city, books cost money, and her father's money always ended up in a glass or on a betting table. The appearance of John. Then came John. In a movie, this would be the scene with a flickering street lamp and a shared cigarette. John was the first person in the city who actually looked at her. At 14, Elaine was starving for affection, and John's attention felt like food. But their love was a minor tragedy. When the pregnancy test turned positive, the world didn't stop to congratulate them. At 14, Elaine's body was a child's house built for a child. The relationship didn't prosper. It buckled under the weight of two children trying to play at being adults. The decision, But Elaine looked at her reflection in a cracked mirror and made a choice that would define the rest of her life.
I won't be like her. I won't leave.
She chose to let the child live. To pay for that choice, she became a scavenger. The girl who once dreamed of ninth grade algebra spent her days sifting through the city's mountains of trash. She sold plastic, glass, and scrap metal. The city's discarded waste to buy milk for a baby that the world said shouldn't exist. If John was a fleeting summer storm, Jose was a typhoon. They met while Elaine was working at a cell shot, a brief window of time where she tried to live a normal life. Jose was charming at first, promising a shield against the world that had been so cruel to her. They married, and for a heartbeat, Elaine thought the cycle of abandonment had ended. But the mask slipped quickly. The man she married was replaced by a man enslaved to the needle and the dice. The price of peace, 300 pesos. The cinematic tension of this era of her life centers on a single number, 300. Imagine a shot of a clock ticking toward midnight. Elaine is standing by the door, clutching her purse. Inside is only 250 pesos. She knows what is coming. In the language of their house, boxing wasn't a sport. It was a ritual of pain. Jose didn't just hit her. He boxed her into a corner of her own life. He used drugs. He gambled away the children's food. And in the ultimate betrayal, he brought his vices and his infidelities into their sacred space. Even when she caught him with another woman, Elaine stayed. Not out of love for him, but out of a desperate, terrified loyalty to her 3 children. She became a pillar of salt frozen in a bad life because she had nowhere else to stand. 2021, the year of the Great Hunger. The year 2021 brought a coldness that the city had never left. The boxing became more frequent as the food became more scarce. One evening, after a particularly brutal encounter where the cupboards were bare and the children were crying, something in Elaine finally snapped. She looked at the bruises on her arms and then at the empty bowls on the table. She realized that being a good woman was getting her children killed by inches. The sacred target. Elaine began to walk. She walked past the bars, past the markets, and stopped in front of the great plaza. There, the church stood, grand, silent, and smelling of ancient peace. To the wealthy, it was a place of worship. To Elaine, it was open and quiet. It was the only place in the city where a woman with a bruised face could sit for hours without being questioned. She watched the way the light hit the collection boxes. She watched the expensive handbags left on pews by people who had never known the weight of a fist for the sake of 50 pesos. The first time she took something from the house of God, she didn't feel like a criminal. She felt like a mother gathering manna in the desert. She was victimizing the only father she had left to turn to the one in the tabernacle. The arrest caught in one of the city's most prestigious cathedrals. Elaine didn't fight. She looked at the police officer with eyes that had been dead for years. She managed to convince the priest, a man of God, moved by the hollow look in her eyes, not to file a case. But the law is not as forgiving as the gospel. A police officer, bound by the rigid lines of the gambling and theft laws, moved forwards with the handcuffs.
Follow for part 2.
If you believe every mistake has a lesson, follow for more life perspectives.